Hello and welcome to the discussion here on Classic FM. I'm Sulaiman Aledeh, and today has been one of those historical moments in the political history of Nigeria. For those who have been following closely, developments in Osun State in Nigeria, Southwest region, you already have seen the news or heard the news of what's happened. The PDP won that particular election. Which has given quite a number of dynamics. For a lot of people, they've been asking about some key things on how that election went. And it's going to be our conversation here today on the discourse. Quite frankly, we'll also be looking at the 2023 elections, issues around the 2023 elections. And today, I'm being joined by architect NYA-ETOK Ezekiel, who is the Governorship Candidate of ADC in Akwa Ibom State. Good to see you and thanks for your time.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your program. I don't know why, I'm always very excited when I'm with you.
I'm as well excited having you on the show. And, once that news broke in Osun State, we decided to say, look, wait a minute, we needed to change the topic and come look at that. But first of all, let's start talking about your preparations. I know the campaigns have not officially started. You are the candidate for the ADC in Akwa Ibom State. Let us in on what you're doing so far and what your party is doing.
Okay. Because this is a national and international network, I'm going to be a little guarded in what I should say, because this is my state. And for somebody who wants to be the governor of that state, you want to be a little more discreet in your choice of words. In politics, there are two sides of the coin. There's the side that is falsehood, okay? But there's the other side that is the truth, but it has two truths, okay? One truth is speaking loud and saying nothing, so you've not lied. The other truth is being factual and telling it like it is, which is like, what they call objective reportage in journalism. So I don't know which of the truths I'm going to tell. I'm not going to tell a lie. So the truth is actually in Akwa Ibom State, the dynamics is different from what has ever been before. First, the two major parties are having all sorts of issues, unbelievable issues, such that they may end up having no candidate at the end of the day. And even if they succeed, the parties are so fragmented right now that they really can't. Akwa Ibom has always been what they call a one-party state, where some people think a particular party's religion, but right now that myth has been completely shattered. Then the APC has done a fantastic job of being an atomistic society, unfortunately. Now that leaves the concept of the third force quite open. And within that context, there are two sides of the story again. There's a side that talks about zoning, where certain people feel it should come from a particular section, okay? And then there's the other side where people say, look, it's gone to the three sides of the divide, the three senatorial districts, and we've not seen any gain from it. Right now, we have our backs against the wall. We need an intervention. It's like in a period of war. At the period of war, you suspend all protocols, including even the constitution, and kind of execute the war, then we can come back and talk. So we are now in a situation of war in the state. If you look at all the indices with respect to unemployment, with respect to the economy, with respect to the debt burden and everything, we are in an absolutely terrible situation. So the state is looking for a messiah of some sort. So as a result, people don't really care whether, if you like, come from Fernanda Po, so long as the constitution allows you, they're looking for that man. Then there's a third factor, which is almost national. Where we are today, usually will be at a stage where it's like a month to election, in the past. Usually it's like a month when you have all these activities, usually a month or two to election. But right now, we still have a month or two to when we should start having another 6 months So there's going to be proper campaigning, proper profiling of the people. There's going to be interrogations. There's going to be a lot of things that will come into the mix.
And why do you think, sorry to cut you there, and why do you think that is? Because there seems to be, as if everyone is in a rush. Nigerians are in a rush. We just want to see what happens, what unfolds.
It is the INEC timelines, which is fantastic. INEC has done an awesome yeoman's job. I'm in love with the chairman of INEC and the board and everybody, you know. So right now, aside from what has happened in Ekiti, you know, what's happened in what has happened in Osun? What happened in Ekiti was like, can it be? It was like a wake-up call. So Osun was to either consolidate or demystify. And Osun has more than consolidated. So everybody's now saying, whoa, it seems that things have changed. So maybe as we proceed in the discussion, but as far as Akwa Ibom is concerned, people like us ordinarily would not be so much a talking point, you know, because you are not one of the big two, as they normally put it. But today, ADC in particular, my party, has become the toast of the society. So much so that a few days back, I'll tell you this, you know, politics is such a terrible, it's such a curious thing. Let me not say terrible. A member of NEC, not even NWC, going with two other members of, two other chapter chairmen, and about 15 people that we don't even know in the party at all, went to another candidate to hand over the structure of ADC to that other candidate. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing you have heard. You know, people that are of no significance. It's just like, you know, just imagine that, you know, 3 members of APC going and taking maybe another 15 members and going to maybe the presidential candidate of ADC and saying, we are handing over the structure of APC to you. I mean, is that ridiculous?
You know, you know, the thing, the beauty about this is that sometimes you look at some people and you ask yourself, why are they running? Why are they running? And is it for the business? Is it for the money? We've seen some candidates, you know, being stampeded or look like being stampeded into getting some running mates. And you ask yourself, wait a minute, did you think it through? Now, you did say we'll dig in deep, but before we dig in deep, let's talk about, let's see if we can actually close on this concerning Akwa Ibom politics, where you are at the moment. I recall I had spoken to you about the third force then. A lot of people dismissed the third force. And I've also had conversation here on the discourse with a notable Nigerian who said something fantastic, talking about Atedo Peterside. He said, perish the thought when people always say votes don't count. It does count. I'm not asking you, in his words, I'm not asking you to join my party, but I'm asking you to be a member of a political party anywhere and be a participant. And now we're getting to see that. So in Akwa Ibom State, before we look at Osun State and some other big issues, is it right to say there's already a third force?
Oh, absolutely so. I would say, to be very honest, and you know, one of the things that people credit to me, truly or falsely, is the concept of integrity. And integrity can be expensive because you are forced to tell the truth. Okay, in Akwa Ibom State, I can tell you for free that the concept of the third force is evolving into what you call the concept of the alternate forces. Now, alternate forces in the sense that APC and PDP have always been put in the same box. Now, a third force is more like these other people coming together. But what is going to play out in Akwa Ibom is that there's going to be PDP if they're able to go through the legal, you know, nooses that are on their noses and their necks, you know. And APC is more dire. So if they're able to go through the legal processes and they actually have people fielded, because if you look at INEC portal, it has somebody for PDP, but in APC, in INEC portal, they said, nil, no primaries. As at today. I don't know if anything will change along the line. So they may be APC, they may be PDP, but on the alternate forces, there's a brother of mine that has that left PDP and just declared for one of the parties. He is a force to reckon with. So he's going to be strong, very strong. There's going to be another person, in fact, the person that was the secretary of the interim government of APC at the national. He left APC and joined another party. He's going to be a force of some sort if he puts himself together early enough. And then definitely there's going to be ADC, which is my party. Now, people were expecting that 3 of us would have come together before now and then forged an alliance, but we are all on the ballot as at today. And I don't see anything fundamentally shifting, from those. So we're going to have about 5 parties that are strong and going. Now, that is going to make a win on the first ballot dicey, because unlike Osun or Ekiti, where it was like a 2-horse race or at best a 3-horse race, in Akwa Ibom, we're going to have something like a 4 or 5-horse race, So it's going to be something that, and the only difference is that what gives me a strategic advantage is what they call zoning. Because of this fixation on zoning, virtually all of them come from a particular senatorial district.
All of them?
Yeah, virtually all of them. They come from Uyo senatorial district. I come from Ikotekpene senatorial district. Now, what they think is my disadvantage will turn out to be my greatest advantage. Because the 3rd senatorial district, which is Eket senatorial district, they don't want to hear that they have to wait for another 16 years to come back to power. So they will say, it's gone to Eket, it's gone to Uyo, it's gone to Ikotekpene. Those are the 3 senatorial districts. It's gone round. So there's no question of injustice. Since it's gone round, has it done us any good? No, let's now throw it open for the best to come. And within that context, it is more likely, more probably, it's just commonsensical, that they will pitch with a side that will make it because no matter how good you are from Uyo, the moment you emerge, they will say zoning has started again because it started from Uyo. But they would rather it comes from another section so that it will agree that it's now whoever wins, whoever can takes it. So these are all the dynamics, but it's how we manage the processes such that the people have a buy-in, because today votes count.
Now we're looking at the elections in Osun State. A whole lot of people are writing about that election. Notably, I'll just give some names. Ebon Adegboroa, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, is already written his analysis on that. He's giving about 6-7 pointers here. He talks about performance, that performance doesn't count anymore. He also noted that, well, there's a guarantee that INEC is independent. The same love you have for INEC, he has the same for INEC. He's also talked about deployment of technology, which he says is working to our, our advantage. Now he also talks about the freedom and the fairness that people have seen in elections, and he talks about the reign of godfathers looking as if in some parts is waning, and he also mentioned the role of civil society and activists, which I know you're also a member of that society. And I also share some others from other experts who have actually commented on this. Let us in on what you thought happened. First, did you see this victory for the PDP in Osun State happening?
You see, the victory, there's something fundamentally challenging to our electoral system today. That challenge is that we get to the airport, we are to board an aircraft, and two people come in. One is in flowing agbada, looking very prosperous, and the other is a pilot. Now you gather the generality of the people who are boarding the aircraft to decide who the pilot should be. The man in flowing agbada gives these people that don't mind these people, they are fooling you, they are lying to you, the business class and the economy, why should they have a section because of this and that, there's discrimination, everybody come on board, when I'm the pilot, everybody will be on first class, you know, having the wine and the drinks and everybody. And then the pilot comes in and says, this is not sustainable, you can't do that. There's a reason why they have the business class, the coach class, the economy, you know, that is like a cut and fill. It tells you for the profitability, for the sustainability. And the man comes and says all this grammar, forget this grammar that they are talking. And the other one is is finding it difficult. Now, there are two sets of people to take the decision. There is about 20% of enlightened people, intellectuals who understand what this man is saying. And then there's this 80% of traders and all sorts of people, you know, who the villages and everything. And guess who wins? The man in flowing agbada, who promises first class for everybody. And you know, the intellectual, that's not sustainable. So when they say performance don't count anymore, it is that our decision makers have become the people in the villages who are looking for survival. They are not thinking. You come and tell them this master plan that you have, they're not listening to you, they're not hearing you. Why is that so? It's an analysis that we need to make and understand fast. Two things come up. The very first is that usually there is more population in the urban areas than in the rural areas because of what they tag the rural-urban migration. But the reverse is the case in elections. There are more votes in the rural areas than in the urban areas. That is because when you look at the voting pattern, you discover that the votes are done by 30% of the people. Out of this 30%, about 80% is from the rural areas. When I say rural areas, I'm talking about not just location-wise, but by the suffering masses. Now, these other intellectuals that are in the majority, I would say, relative majority, they do not come out to vote and they don't even get registered to vote. They sit on television like you and I and do analysis. And the analysis is based on the fact that don't buy this, well, votes don't count, which was the fact in the past. And secondly, I'll tell you, Akwa Ibom, for instance, Akwa Ibom has never voted, never. I've been involved in the past 6, series of elections. Akwa Ibom has never voted. It's always been allocation of votes, allocation of votes, allocation of votes. So the mindset of the average enlightened person here is like, why do I have to waste my time when que sera, sera? And secondly, which is almost worse, why do I come to choose between 6 and half a dozen? They could as well have their way. But Osun and Ekiti have evolved a new paradigm and a fundamental shift where people are starting to say, whoa, if votes count, then maybe I will now look and see if there's anybody exciting. On account of my being on the ballot in Akwa Ibom State, you'll be shocked the number of people that have gone to go and get their PVC because they're like, wow, this guy, we know him and we want to be on his side. So I think that 2023 is going to be a big shock, positively so, to a lot of people in this country and going forward.
Let me share with you what Dr. Ogunyemi has said. Dr. Ogunyemi, Tunji Ogunyemi, he's a lecturer at the University of Ife, and presently he's outside the country. He sent in this for the discuss. He says, the outcome of the election seemed to defy all political theories. He agrees with us when we were trying to catch our own, topic for this. And he said, it proves that Nigerian voters do not necessarily look at the records. And he said something about this is the second time in the Southwest that the latter factor will come true. The first was Dr. Kayode's first term in Ekiti State. And he goes to say, I think my much loved Ogbeni Aregbesola really got too angry at his being sidelined by Bola Tinubu. Little did they know that if they had placated him, this would have perhaps helped the outcome of the election. And he said, nevertheless, I congratulate the governor-elect Ademola Adeleke. So you said something about, you placed an analogy of someone who left a political party with some few members, whether known or unknown. And he said, I'm handing over this platform to you. Do you think when we talk about bickerings or infightings in political parties, as we've seen in the major political parties, and that's why the APC is trying to make amends with some of its members, and the PDP has been trying to see how they can bring back those aggrieved ones, especially following the aftermath, following the primaries. So, what do you think really? Apart from performances, let's look at the parties now, the two big parties in that election. The ADC, your party, isn't part of the big parties in Osun State. What is
just that they came third, I believe.
well, that's still making a mark, speaking seriously.
Yes.
Time was, it used to be almost like a two-party state all over Nigeria. So what honestly do you
and guess what, we actually didn't have we actually hardly had a candidate in it, anyway. Really? let's go on with the analysis.
So looking at these issues, as Dr. Gemi has highlighted, and as you already know, do you think that amounted to what we have seen so far, talking about the outcome?
I think that first, if Osun and Ekiti elections had taken place before the primaries in the PDP, I think they would have thought a little differently. Let me tell you something about the PDP. The first is that, I have this robust, extremely robust relationship with Alhaji Kwankwaso. And Mr. Peter Obi is also a friend, I would say, but not as close as Mr. Kwankwaso is. Before the primaries, Mr. Kwankwaso told me something. He said, if I go to primaries with Tambuwal will beat me. If I go with Saraki will beat me. Atiku will beat me. He called about 5 people that all of them will beat him in the primaries, but that all of them put together cannot beat him in a general election. Okay? And for as long as he is in the party, his capacity looks like a myth. How are we sure? How are we sure? Maybe, maybe not. He said, I need to step out and let them know who I am for a fact. He stepped out and you saw what happened. Overnight, he brought a non-existent party into national reckoning, NNPP. That means that his capacity wasn't actually a fluke, but a fact, which his party refused to acknowledge. Look at Mr. Peter Obi. For the fact that this is a shining star from the Southeast, you were almost sure he would have a momentum going into it. But if that guy had gone into primaries, he would have been so beaten silly that he would have looked so inconsequential. He noticed it at the nick of time and moved out. Look at what he's the rave of the moment. Now, what do we have? Two people from PDP who are making waves, one from the north, one from the south. Imagine if PDP had humbled itself and thought in terms of the substances they had. These are two people from PDP. Okay, now fast forward to where they are today. The parties are so full of themselves that they feel they can do and undo anything. I think that today, Mr. Tinubu must be really sitting down and wondering what they got themselves into by giving INEC this level of independence, so much so that the game, the dynamics of the game has completely changed. And it has changed irreversibly, because as of today, the game plan of INEC is public. Everybody knows. So what will they say is a reason why they cannot continue in this trajectory? Secondly, the first law of life is that of self-preservation. INEC is riding the crest of their life with the way people are hailing them. And people are like, wow, this is awesome. This is wonderful. INEC, you've done what Napoleon Bonaparte could not do. So I don't see anything that you can offer INEC as at today to make them reverse the trend. As a result, the so-called two big parties are discovering that they are getting so demystified in a way that they will never believe what has hit them. In Ekiti, PDP could not even come second. And that's in Ekiti. In Osun, a sitting APC has been removed. Now, going forward, the dynamics are going to be taken advantage of. And for the first time, you know, we have 6 months of campaign, 6 months of interrogating and engaging the people, 6 months of letting people know that votes will count and that these are your problems and these are the people that can solve your problems, because all those rhetorics of 2000, you know, people are still coming to the reality because they didn't really believe that votes will count. But now that they know that votes will count, Nigeria is on a different run altogether.
You know, there's another aspect, but let me quickly say this to those who listen to us. If you're listening and you want to share, you want to contribute, you can get to us via WhatsApp on 0909-217-2973, 0909-217-2973. And of course, if you're listening from outside Nigeria, don't forget to put the telephone area code +234 909-217-2973. And my guest today is a renowned architect who is also the candidate for the ADC in Akwa Ibom State, NYA-ETOK, Ezekiel. And you know, one other aspect which is very key here has to do with the personalities and the people who vote in elections. Some have, you know, said that they realize that elections in Nigeria are being, you know, done by still the very old. We're talking about our parents who live in the villages. If you look keenly, you realize that the majority of our voters are those who turn out to vote. I'm talking about those who turn out to vote on election day, are those who are the very old ones, or sometimes, not to make them feel down or low, are not those that ordinarily people would want to call educated voters. Still, they are the ones who are so educated about their civic responsibilities. We have a lot of young people who still talk about a whole lot of things on social media. On D-Day, they're nowhere to be found. How much of enlightenment, of conviction, do you think the Nigerian public or agencies, civil society, INEC, political parties, or these body of Nigerians, to making them understand that, look, whatever Papa and Mama has been doing all their life is very important that you may not see?
Yeah, the issue isn't as straight cut as one would expect. Mama and Papa, they go out of two things. One, boredom. This is an excitement. So they go to get excitement somewhere. Secondly, they are able to get a little thing That's why vote buying is working. These guys are so poor, they've been so impoverished that if they can go and pick, let me tell you this. When we do political mobilization, people leave their houses and spend the whole day so that at the end of the day, they get 500 naira during political mobilization. It's so terrible. If they can do this during political mobilization, how about during voting when they are sure of not 500 naira, but maybe 5,000 naira? So the incentive is completely different. Juxtapose that with our supposed young people. There's something about our young people that we have not really come to, understand. I'll give you a very simple analogy, not even an analogy, a fact. The amount of money that is spent on BB Niger, by who? The supposed poor young people. It's mind-boggling. It's absolutely preposterous. It defies any logical reasoning. The amount of billions that these people get from the votings. So the question is, what really matters to the young person? So you discover that somebody who can load his phone with 5,000 naira to vote so many times, to tell him to go so that he can collect 5,000 naira is not such an incentive. So we need to come in ADC, African Democratic Congress, because a lot of times people mistake ADC with APC, they sound almost alike, but in African Democratic Congress, where the youths are like our target, we've had to do a lot of introspection and asking ourselves, how do we connect with the youth so that they can get to see their future, okay, through us and the ballot box? There has been that disconnect, but African Democratic Congress is building that connect very well. That's why in Akwa Ibom, for instance, probably next week, we are commissioning, a center that we call the ADC Arena. This ADC Arena has what we call the Africa Youth Center, where we are creating a situation where we can network with the young people through intellectual discourse and dialogue. It's not just all these political rallies, no. Engagement intellectually and getting them to see things from a completely different paradigm. And luckily for us, we don't have 1 week, we don't have 2 weeks, we have 6 months to do that. And
that's enough time. Sorry to cut you there. That's enough time for us, because I'm trying to push in a lot now. That's enough time for a lot of people to get to understand what exactly is playing out. Some of those things you just highlighted, Deji sent in, he said that is why vote buying will continue, because the young who should know, the young who would think is enlightened, can only come to argue on social media, but on D-Day, we can't find them. And as you rightly put it, boredom has taken Papa and Mama out, and they have also been given money, and they just feel that, well, I'm hard done by, this is all I can get, let me go out there and cast my ballot. Now, quickly, help us here. How can the people understand that the new entrants, because I was almost going to ask you, how is it that now we're getting to see a lot of people who are, once upon a time, everyone wants to plug into APC or PDP. Today you are in ADC, there's an African Democratic Congress. We have some others who are in different political parties. And as rightly said, Konkonso is in the NNPP. And Labour Party that has always been there, a man has actually changed the status of Labour Party. So what do you think is really going on? There seems to be a kind of movement in Nigeria that is not just in a direction. It looks like the whole thing about two-party system for the APC and the PDP, they should be having sleepless nights. So do you agree?
Completely. Absolutely. You see, something we've always been bothered. There's a class of Nigerians that we call ourselves women and men of conscience. Some of us are so passionate about this country. You know, the day you get to know my life history, you know that I am the product of the goodness of Nigeria. Nigeria has been so unbelievably good to me. I should be a palm wine tapper in the village today, okay? But here I am, by the grace of God, being acknowledged nationally and internationally because of one thing. Nigeria gave me the education that, you know, I went to a school that was rated the best in West Africa and the 9th best in the Commonwealth, as at that time, Federal Government College, Warri. That school changed my life forever, my perspective to life, my every single thing. Now, that is the gift that Nigeria gave to me.
So how do you feel? Sorry, I'm not running away from that. It's part of it. So how do you feel today, seeing that, well, today's generation don't have such gifts or with regards to what we're doing with education at the moment?
Yes. Now, because of that, people like myself now feel a moral burden to make sure that we bring our children to this Nigeria that it's like a myth. It's like a storybook. Time was when there was what you call public tap in Ikodekpene, where I grew up. You go to fetch water. People can't think of public water supply. Almost 50 years after, it's like we're walking backwards very fast instead of forward. So what we are now doing is trying to let the young people know that the reason why this is so is because we've had terrible people in government, and that we can create enough momentum to reverse that trend. We try to tell them how much, let me just give you a little example today.
All right.
Well, before this government came in, I want you to know that Mr. President said that subsidy was a scam. They set up a panel and they said that the 35 million liters of petrol that they said we were consuming daily the figure was bogus, that we were actually consuming about 25 million liters. Now think of this, about 25 million, right? After that, the economy did not boom. We went into recession. The pandemic set in. People were retrenched. So we would expect that people are not able to repair their cars the way they were. People are not able to buy new cars. People are abandoning their cars. So the figures should ordinarily drop from what they thought was 25. But guess what? The figure has not only increased, but astronomically. We are now talking of 60-something million. At a particular month, we talked of over 100 million liters. Brother, it doesn't take rocket science for you to know that this country is just being manipulated by people who couldn't care less about us. And we're saying, let's come back and do a proper leadership recruitment so that you can have a country that you should be proud of. That's what we are trying to let the younger people into. And I want to say that we are creating a traction and a momentum. All we need is just to up the ante, and Nigeria will be back. And the young people are starting to reason with us. And that is why some campaigns like mine, over 90% of the people there are below 40. You know, they are basically young people, and they are seeing me as a door opener for them. So the young people are actually starting to believe.
You know, let me take this here from Leo. Leo is listening to us, and he lives he's listening from Ketu, and that's Ketu in Lagos State. And he says, hello, Mr. ETOK Ezekiel, and he says the structure of the APC and other political parties, vote buying and ballot snatching toggery that the parties are claiming has collapsed from Osun State governorship election, and presently our votes can now be seen to count because INEC is independent. He goes back to some of the key things you talked about, technology. An independent umpire how important are these towards getting credible elections?
Absolutely so. You see, there are two things. I happen to have a very, very robust relationship with the national chairman of INEC, and sat with him on several occasions. This man, you remember the day he went for Senate confirmation? Against the run of play that people would expect, he said, we're going to introduce technology. He's a man who is ready to bite the bullet. I know the pressure he's been under, but this man has said, look, I'm a university lecturer. Worst case scenario, I go back to my classroom. I'm also a human being that likes posterity to smile on. There's nothing you're going to give me. So Ezekiel, I, as your friend, the best I can tell you is go and walk, because votes will count. He asked me, do your people love you? I said, yes, they do. He said, go and contest, because vote will count. No matter the pressure that comes on him, he's going to be independent. And that man is living to the things he told me. And I'm so happy that.
So as you're happy, someone is unhappy here. And he says, Sulaiman, Ezekiel ETOK speaks well, but I fought him on saying that Akwa Ibom votes are allocated before now. Politicians will come on air to say what pleases them. I'm from that state. Again, truly, power resides with the people. That is what that is what we saw in Osun yesterday. This is from Achi.
The jury's out there.
And allow me to this before you respond. This one here from Ikena. Ikena says, well, hello, to discuss. This current election in Osun is an example of the people actually voting the individual and not the political party.
That's right.
Every time, if the other smaller parties, in quote, can merge with other parties to form a third force, it will go a long way. Let us focus on reviving the country, the nation, instead of our selfish interests. That's from Ikenna. And I think I'll let you respond to those two.
Okay, the first, I would say the jury is out there. Let me give you a little example in Akwa Ibom. When we were about 1.6 million voters, go and check 2015. Our votes turnout used to be close to 1 million. Now that we are 2.1 million voters, we can hardly make over 700,000. So I think that we will now be able to know why with more voters, we are getting less votes. The answer is simple. With the beavers, with the smart card readers, all those issues of incident forms have been eliminated. So we now have proper figures. We don't even need to go into that, but I understand how he feels. And secondly, when he knows that I have contested before, then he would know that I'm talking as a man in the field. But that's really the important thing is what the second person said, which I completely agree with, which is that our votes count now. And that animation must be so magnified. It must not be allowed. You see, politicians are going to find a way to, they've looked for every way to try to discredit. The only problem, the only elephant in the room now is vote buying. And we need to step up our discourse to let people know that the people that are in the urban areas, the enlightened people, that their votes are very important, because the people that a cup of rice makes meaning to, so long as they remain the deciding factors in our election process, like it or not, we're still going to keep having problems. But something is happening, a revolution, which is good. And that is that votes are now starting to come out from urban areas. Usually they will tell you, go to the rural. If you don't go to the rural, you won't win. And the rural actually accounts for less than 20% of the vote in totality. So in ADC, one of our strategies today is to engage the 80% that have been either docile or dormant or complacent, okay? So this myth that votes are only in the rural areas is just a matter of saying only rural people come out to vote. But now, with this animation of vote count, I know within today alone, I know the messages that have come to me, which are so reassuring. Sir, I'm going to get my PVC because now votes count.
And so one of the messages we just got here is specifically to you, and it's from Steve, who's listening from Surulere. Steve is asking, Mr. ETOK, NYA-ETOK, is there a possibility of a merger between the Labour Party and the ADC? He goes on to say, LP, that's the Labour Party, is moving with a massive support of the youth. Can ADC leverage on this for a merger?
Okay, I'll tell you this. They are using words, they mean well, but they are words that are not politically sound. Right now, you can't have any merger. You can't have any merger. You can't, okay? Because you've already submitted names of candidates to INEC, and like the presidency, you can't change anything again. You can't change. The only thing you can do is a form of alliance. Parties can say, ADC, let's work with Labour to the end that we will maybe look for states to have collaborations and the national, okay? And the problem that Labour had with NNPP might be the problem that you still have, which should have been resolved earlier, which is as Kwankwaso, who is going to be the leader. Let me tell you this, brother, and I want Nigerians to hear this, and that is that there may be no clear winner, I said it before, on the first ballot. There will likely be no clear winner. At the center, APC is going to be strong no matter how you look at it. Mr. Tinubu is not the man you dismiss with a wave of the hand. PDP is going to be strong no matter how you look at it. ADC has one young man that is making waves, and Mr. Dimebi Kachiku. What he's achieved within a few weeks of getting into politics is almost like a feat, where he was able to beat Professor Moralu, you know, at the primaries. And people used to think, oh, he threw away dollars and blah, blah, blah. But now they've come to realize that such never happened, that they actually had very clean, clear primaries, that this guy is a political strategist. Now, we are going to have Labour Party that you can see, I mean, you can write it off, the momentum is great. There's another young man in SDP, you know, Barrister Adewale Adebayo. Now, so these people are going to get chunks, you know, from here and there. So an outright win of being able to get 25% in 2/3 of the state, apart from the popular figure, might be challenging. So you may need to have a runoff. It is at that point that there will now be understandings, collaborations, and I see clearly how the other parties will not want to network with any of the two big parties, okay? So I think at that later stage, there may be an understanding, but for now, the windows are fast closing. Now that of the governorship is still open. For instance, somebody from NNPP might want to work with me in ADC, and all I need to do is say, okay, I am the standard bearer. You come in, and you can be my deputy, which is still possible till August 12th, I believe. Okay, that can be done. So there's that kind of understanding. You know, there could be that technical merger because, you know, politically you can't merge party-wise, but you can have that understanding. Now, that window closes on the 12th of August for the House of Assembly and the governorship. It's already closed for presidency, you know, and National Assembly. So when you understand these dynamics, there's still a chance that we are going to work together in front, but it's going to be based on alliance and understanding, but not a merger.
Now, we by next month, which is August, so by the way, Dumebi Kachuku, your presidential candidate, We've been having that conversation with him here on the Discourse, and he's assured us that he's going to be on the program. The last he said he was in transit, and is one young Nigerian that we must speak to now. Talking about interrogating people, what readily comes to mind is having, village squares, conversation, meetings, or debates. Are we likely to see that entrenched in our democracy going forward? Because time was when people look you in the eye and they say, I'm not coming for any debate, and they go ahead to win that election. So the people now must interrogate whoever is coming in, isn't it?
That arrogance is fast failing them. These people had nothing to offer. That's why when they get into government, they wreck our economy. They have nothing to offer. These are people that if you were in secondary school, we call them yam heads, okay? They are now coming to meet hot heads, man. And they're like, how am I going to stand on the podium with these people? What am I going to say? Like I 2 days back or 3 days back, I had a kind of very robust interaction with the senior staff union of University of Uyo, and it was hot. It was hot. It was engaging. They threw hard punches. Now, with people like that, how will these big parties who were not selected based on excellence, competence, capability, but on financial inducement, how are they going to stand? I just can't wait for me to see on a podium. I see Kwankwaso is standing there, Atiku is standing there, Asiwaju is standing there, Dumebi Kachiku is standing there, Peter Obi is standing there, and Adewale is standing there, Adebayo. I want to see at least these 6 people. Let's hear them out. Man, it's going to be smoking. And let me, I know I'm a prophet, but let me say this.
Oh, you are?
I don't want, Ezekiel is a prophet. You can't take that out. I got you there.
Honestly,
let me tell you.
You got me there.
Yes, let me say this. Nobody should be sick on that day. Oh. You must be well by fire by force.
So the wayo that they bring up.
We don't want anybody flown abroad.
Because I've been with other colleagues. Sorry, quickly, let me drop this. I've been a part of such debates, preparations, and it's amazing the kind of flimsies that they bring up when it's time for them to speak.
Yeah. We had one before now when we were still aspirants, about 13 of us. And one of them said, oh, I had a campaign engagement. This is something, campaign engagement is not like my son had an accident. No. Campaign engagement is what you are programmed to do. And this is an appointment you had accepted long before today.
And it's part of the campaign.
Thank you. And for you to have a clash of campaign and a promise you had given means you are either not together, or you are irresponsible, or you are deceitful. It's one of the 3, if not more. Okay. So I really want you who have been a part of this to get your teams together. And if possible for presidency, let's have 6 debates in the 6 geopolitical zones. Let's take it round. Let these people know that they are going to be drilled. 2 things happen. Even if you eventually win, you must go and do preparation. There's something about debate. Debate makes you to go and prepare. Some of these guys, imagine if our past outgoing president was subjected to certain rigorous debates. There are certain things he would have had to go and find out, and those things would have helped him today. Because these guys just, boom, get into the office, and without accountability to anybody, without preparation, they are discovering things. How can you tell? You see, today, I can tell you at least 40, if not 50% of the governance system, structure, and dynamics of Akwa Ibom State, including our finances, our resources. I can tell you because I've been doing research. There are certain things I will never know until I sit on the governor's seat, but at least up to 60% of the things you can know. You can't tell me after you've been a president for God knows how long, you are like saying things like, what? I'm surprised. I'm shocked. You, Mr. If you are shocked, then I'm dead.
So what are the key issues you think we should be bringing on those such debates? Because we need to definitely, clearly, I know security will be top on the list, but again, what more would you want?
Economy, employment. Those are the issues you've got to answer. You've got to tell us about job creation practically. How do you want to create jobs? Peace and stability, which is the foundation for even our existence as a nation or as a state. You can't talk of investment. That's why when each time they say they are going to look for foreign investments, I wonder if these guys took tramadol or something. Who is going to come when there's war all over your place? It doesn't make sense. But the moment that you give that underlying principle of peace, the world is a global village. A man in Thailand knows the opportunities in Akwa Ibom. You don't need to go to him. He knows already. He's going to come down here because he knows that these materials are there. This labor force is cheap. The peace is there. And the networking, the government is serious. You don't go to him, they come to you. When you go to beg, people give you conditions. When they come to you to beg you, you can even be the one giving conditions. That's why we have all these people, oh, we are looking for investors. You don't know what to do. Set your house right. Let your fundamentals be right, and investors will come. So peace and stability is number one on the list. And then you talk of human capital development. You know, that's a very major topic that we don't even look at. You know, the greatest resource that Nigeria has is the human capital, not the oil. How a president wants to be the minister of petroleum is a misplacement of priorities. No. Labor and productivity, education, those are the two areas that you should be the minister of if you must. Because by the time you are able to harness the productivity of the people, then you have given a foundation for job creation, peaceful environment, and prosperity of states.
The way it's going, for a lot of people watching and also listening to you, they envy you already, and because of your growing up days, your education. Shouldn't us be also saying that we must also have the education sector as an issue to be debated on the day? Because look at it, as we speak, perhaps we don't even know if the strike will be called off any moment from now, but people have been on strike, the students have been on strike for the last 5 months.
Let me ask a question, my brother. Somebody who cannot find his certificate, where will he stand to start talking about education? It's people like me that say that education makes me who I am today.
And I'm sure that is why the debate is important.
Absolutely, because debate is important for two reasons. One, aside from getting you to prepare, understanding the dynamics of the office, knowing too that you're going to be on a podium with people who have prepared, you've got to have more than money to be able to accept the debate. So debate is something that must be inevitable. That is number one, it gets you to prepare. The second thing about debate that I think we must get to is for Nigerians to feel you. Any leader that cannot carry, you see, there are certain fundamentals in leadership as at today. One of them is capacity to carry the people, interface with the people, connect with the people, inspire the people. It's that X factor is absolutely inevitable. So the debate gets people to connect with you and give a positive disposition. You know, I think it's Winston Churchill that says that hope is the anchor that stabilizes the soul. Just the hope that this man is a good man, is good. Just that hope, that body language starts to change the system in a way that.
I'm happy you put a smile on my face now by having that quote from Churchill, and I'll tell you why. We're closing, and I'll say this: the debate will help Nigerians know that those who are qualified. Doesn't it also bother any Nigerian that till date we still do not have leaders that you can actually have a quote on marble and say, this is from my leader in the 60s and the 70s or the 80s. It is just
sad.
Very sad. At this point, I'd like to say thank you for being such nice company. We wish you well in your pursuit, and we do hope when you do visit Lagos, when the campaigns start, you'll be making
it's 3 o'clock.
Physical appearance here on the show. Many thanks.
Thank you so much. It's always so exciting. There's something about you that is just different. So,
thank you. I appreciate it. And Sulaiman, for those who missed out on this, you can actually watch it pretty much later on our YouTube channel. Bye-bye.